nowhere else to start really, but the 400-meter hurdles. Unbelievable performance from Karsten Warholm, winning the gold medal in 45.94, taking almost a second of his own world record. Obviously, even Rai Benjamin was also inside the old record. Could you believe your eyes when the clock stopped?
No, I didn't. I thought it was a very, very good race. I think that, well, I'm sure I was watching it from different angles, and multiple times Rai Benjamin made a couple of errors that probably cost him the race very early in the race. And Warholm made no major mistakes. And in the hurdles, it always comes down to who makes the least amount of mistakes at the end of the day, cumulative mistakes. And they were very evenly matched. The race could have gone either way. Benjamin could have is just as easily won by a meter, save for his mistakes, and especially the last mistake, clipping the hurdle, the 10th hurdle. So that took him out, that slowed him down, and that's when Warholm came back with another gear. I think it would have been a foot race to the end, much like the '87 World Championships with myself and Harold Smith and Danny Harris.
And fans and experts and Rai Benjamin himself are calling it the race of the century. How special was it for you? And was it better than Bolt's sub 9.6, for instance? Where does it rank?
In terms of pure racing, you know, Bolt was so far out front. I think you have to take it out of that category. There's not a lot of races, especially in Olympics, that really come down to the wire like that, especially in a dramatic race like the 400 hurdles where, you know, you've got 40, 46, 47, 45 seconds for things to unfold. So it was one of those great races. Another one was the women's hurdles, the women's 400 hurdles. Both of those young ladies ran excellent races. No one made any mistakes. Dalilah Muhammad just got beat in the foot race at the end. And I don't know if she could have done anything because she came off the 10th hurdle just a slight bit ahead, and could have just as easily won as well. So that's just the nature of our event, the 400 hurdles.
And Warholm is obviously an incredible athlete, but the track, and his running shoes have been controversial. Let's talk about the track first. The stadium in Tokyo is an incredibly fast, high-tech surface, apparently. How does that help produce quicker times, and how much could it knock off an athlete's time?
Well, I was reading an article yesterday. I think it came out on the 2nd from the New York Times about the track and the technology that they put into it, and they pretty much built in like a 2% increase in performance based on just the mechanics of the track and the materials. So, you know, it changes things. It makes it very, very difficult to look back at, say, a performance like Kevin Young or my performances on tracks that, tracks that were definitely different without assist. So with the tracks and the shoes, it becomes a significant, statistically significant difference in what the outcome was. I looked at it, I said, well, okay, well, if Kevin Young was running on a track like that, and let's say it was a 2%, which they talked about in this article, 2% increase in performance, then his 46.78 would have been 45.86. And my 47.02 would have been a 46.08. So, that's a significant difference. I wish I would have had the opportunity to run on that kind of track. And I wish I would have had the opportunity to have that kind of competition at the 7th, 8th, 9th hurdle. I never actually had that competition because I was way out in front of everyone else. So I think track people, I've talked to a lot of track people and track aficionados and coaches and trainers, and people are wondering how they're going to approach the fallout from having significantly faster times on a significantly faster track that's been programmed for speed. And that's unusual in an event where, when you're running on something that is supposed to be even for everyone. But over these generations, they've changed the whole paradigm of track and field.
So you really feel that, if you had that equipment and, the tracks and the shoes there, that, you could have maybe run a time similar to what Karsten ran and Rai ran?
I would like to think that I could have, and also the competition. There was a matter of having someone right there all the time. When I ran 47.02, I was significantly ahead. When I ran most of my major big times. I ran the world record in Milan in 1981, 1980. You know, I ran 47:13. I think no one else even ran under 49 in that race. You know, maybe a 48 high. So it's just very, very different, very, very different. You know, that was then and this is now.
And obviously the 400 hurdles, as you've referenced there as well, has a history of world records that have stood for a long time with yourself and Kevin Young. Do you expect this record to do the same, or with all the technical stuff we just talked about and Carsten having Ride to push him and vice versa, do you think those guys will break it again?
It's possible. It's possible. I think Ride, it's possible that under the right conditions, he can do it this summer. You know, he could have run the race. I counted 4 major errors, and he still was competitive at the end until the very end. So it's very possible. And then you look at the other times, you know, who would have thought that 46:17 would be second place, you know, but that smashed the previous record by 1/2 a second. The third place guy, I think he ran 46:30 or 40, something like that, 46:60. So it has a significant effect on the entire competition.
And Warholm has already announced that he's going to run the 400 meters without the hurdles in the Diamond League. You know, he covers the first half of his race so aggressively. You know, can you see him succeeding in that too?
It's a different event, same distance, different event. I had the same problem I anticipate that he's going to have, that I didn't have the cadence and the pacing to run a really good 400 flat. In the hurdles, my stride was perfect, the 13 steps, because I had obstacles that I had to aim for. But in running flat, without those obstacles, you begin to overstride. What I would have had to have done would be to cut down my stride. And because I've been training so long and had a long 13-step rhythm down, it was very difficult to cut that back, to put more steps into the race. My race, I had 152 or 153 steps in every race. And in a 400 flat, I probably have to be up to like 170. So in order to have the muscle, to be able to concentrate your muscles, to throw in an extra 15, 18 steps in a race and have the cadence to do it. I was always afraid of a hamstring injury, having an injury, just because my body wasn't accustomed to it, to rotating at that speed for so long and so hard. So I was always afraid of getting injured, which is why I never ran the 400.
And elsewhere in the women's sprints, obviously Elaine Thompson-Herah did the 100-meter, 200-meter double, second fastest times in history, close to Florence Griffiths, Joyner's long-standing world records. Do you think she could go and break Flojo's records?
It's possible. It's possible. Depends on, obviously, it's going to depend on the track. If it's not the Tokyo track, we don't know what she's capable of doing. She ran very, very fast there. And I think those kinds of times are going to be much harder to run on normal tracks and aren't that super mondo that they had in Tokyo. So, but she's the best women's sprinter in history. She's proved it over and over. She came through at the right time. I think people were concerned about her, and even when she ran in Gateshead against Dina Asher and didn't win, you know, people were concerned. But she was obviously in that final phase of training, and she didn't want to show her cards. She did an outstanding job.
I want to quickly ask you about Dina Asher. She pulled out of the 200 meters with an injury, and then she's running the relay a few days later. Is that, making a choice that maybe that's where she's best suited to win something? What do you think is behind that?
Yeah. If you feel something in your leg, or perhaps your rhythm isn't there, your cadence isn't there, that can be a good decision, better than having a muscle injury. And she could still have twitch, have pain or slight muscle injury in her leg, and just didn't want to go through the 200. That's a hard race, and a lot more pressure than running just 100.